Morning. Well, don't know where to start. So this episode shouldn't really be an episode because I'm having to do something that I didn't think I was going to have to do. So the story is, I tried to, as you know, I told you previously that I wanted to take the power valves out as on these early VJ22 RGVs. The power valve, 3-stage power valves are a real weak link. They have real soft material, and the centre pin, the cotter pin, if you like, wears and wobbles and makes the hole longer in the centre, the centre part of the guillotine. So eventually it causes a crack and they drop in. And ask me how I know this, because my Aprilia did it on the racetrack and high-sided me, and I landed on the floor and the bike landed on top of me. So I know what happens with these things. So it's essential on these earlier VJ22s, because on later ones they updated the pin, made it thicker and stronger so it wouldn't wobble. So the plan was to get the power valves out of the bike, out of the engine, with it all in situ. But this RGV SP had other plans in store for me. So spot the unintentional part of this video already. You'll notice that there's no bike draped around this engine, and I've had a busy hour and a half this morning extracting this engine, this beautiful engine, albeit dirty, out of the bike to enable me to extract these, the seized in power valves. And you'll notice the retaining, there's one retaining screw there, how manky it is, and that one I've not tried, because the top cylinder I could get at, but the bottom cylinder, with the engine being at 90 degrees to the ground, this bottom cylinder was effectively 6 inches off the workbench. So I was trying to get in and release those screws there, that one, and there's one up there. I mean, they were that carboned up, I struggled to get the shaft out, that shaft there, but I managed it on the bottom cylinder. But then it quickly dawned on me that I wasn't going to be able to get the power valves out without really struggling and damaging things. So this is where we're at. And I didn't really want to go this far with this bike, but we are. This is where we are. So at least it's come out smoothly. No hiccups releasing the motor from the bike. So today's plan is to mask up all the entry points to the engine, which is the 2 carb inlets, the power valve. I might even just put the covers back on those. The power valves, the exhaust ports there and there, and then we should be good to give it a damn good degrease for this unplanned episode of RGV250M SP recommission. The bike looks quite bare now, as you can imagine. So I'll go ahead, mask it up, and we'll do a degrease, and I'll show you the efforts when I've done that. See you in a bit. Right, so it looks quite a bit cleaner. Don't be distracted by around that power valve plates because that's coming off and not get proper clean, but degreased wise it is a lot better. I'll just spin it round. There's a bit of tarnish in there. That's cleaned up down there a lot better. All around that was just covered in gooey oil and dirt, and I've literally given the barrels a quick scrub with a fine soft wire brush underneath cleaner. So the plan now is to take both barrels off while the motor's on the bench. It doesn't make sense. I'm going to leave the heads on because head gaskets are £132 a pair. So unless I see something I'm really not happy with once I get the barrels off, the heads are staying on. I've just put old spark plugs back in at the moment. So when the barrels are off, I'm going to measure the piston ring gap. So I'll take the pistons off, clean them up, check them. If the gap's too excessive, it's going to get a set of rings on each cylinder. If the pistons are all right, and obviously take the pistons off, may as well do the small end bearings, and I'll just give the crank a quick check. But it ran fine, it sounded okay. I'm not expecting anything untoward there. And then the other thing I'm going to do is strip the power valves out. As discussed, I'll put the covers back on for cleaning. So I'm going to strip the power valves out, and they will need a good decoat and clean, and hopefully they're in okay condition. Just remove the bottom lower cylinder, and yeah, the piston's got quite a bit of carbon on top, but it is in really, really good condition. Considering this bike's done 28,000 kilometers. I'll be measuring, like I say, I'll be measuring the ring gap, but look at all that. Wow. I have flushed out the barrels and the coolant system when I degreased the engine, but yes, lots of sludge, calcified sludge. I've just measured, I've got this piston out of the cylinder over there, and I've just taken the rings off. I mean, this bike's done 28,000 kilometers, which is what, 16,000, 17,000 miles, and the piston, without a word of a lie, is like something out of a bike that's 2,000 miles old. There's no wear at all on this piston. Okay, carboned up on the top, but that's what you'd expect with this mileage. And I've just measured the rings. I've put them in the bores and made sure they're square, pushed them down with the piston, and I've got the feeler gauges on them, and they were both at 0.3 thousandths of an inch. And I've just gone and checked piston ring end gap. So standard, before, when the engine's brand new, there should be 15 thousandths to 0.3 thousandths of an inch, I think. Unless that's, no, that's right, that's right. Was it millimeters? No, it's millimeters. So it's 0.15 of a millimeter to 0.3 of a millimeter. And both these piston rings are at 0.3 of a millimeter. So if these are standard piston rings, so you'll see there as well, they can go to 0.7, which is more than double the gap. So if these piston rings are the standard rings and piston in this bike, that means they haven't worn further than what they would be new. Wow, that's just blown my mind. And there's no evidence that this bike's ever been apart, because it had the standard base gaskets on, the threads on the cylinder, just perfect. So I think this bike, I mean, it's a good bike obviously, but it's absolutely 100% genuine, and just goes to show the quality of the workmanship originally. Well, that's blown my mind, that has. There's the small end bearing and shim, so I'm going to change the small end bearing as a matter of course, and the piston pin. Right, see you in a bit. Okay, so I've got the one set of power valves out, very carboned, lots of carbon on them. I've seen worse. This bike's been running really well, as I showed you the pistons earlier. It's been running really well, so I've just cleaned up the cylinder. I don't know if you can see in there, that's all fairly clean. Cleaned up the exhaust port. The bores on these cylinders, it's still got the honing on, so it's really good. It's a good bike, this. So back to the power valves. I'm going to take these apart and investigate, and I'll show you what I find when I take them apart, hoping that middle guillotine isn't cracked. That's all we're looking for, and no wear on the holes. So let's see what we find. Yeah, I'm actually quite shocked to find that they're absolutely perfect. Usually that pin starts to rock and elongates the hole and then forces that to crack, and then they drop into the cylinder. Ask me how I know this. One of mine cracked while I was racing an Aprilia RS250, and this piece dropped into the cylinder as I was going around a 60-70 mile an hour corner. So the bike seized, high-sided me, and then decided to land on top of me at the same time, which was pleasant. So yeah, these power valves are in good condition. Incredible for the mileage of the bike. So it literally is just a clean-up job and get them back in the barrels. Then it's a matter of waiting for piston bearings and gudgeon pin, etc. Then we can get it all back together. But success, I would say. I'm relieved. Okay, that's one set power valves for one cylinder clean, so they're ready to go back in. Clean the little springs, the bar, it's like a washer with prongs that holds the springs in. I've got some new washers. Now, one thing I will say is those 3 holes there, 1, 2, 3, that's where these screws go, and they notoriously seize in the hole. You can see the white residue on the thread. I got one out with a screwdriver. I usually use my impact driver, but I broke a bit on the impact driver trying to get them out, so I thought, rather than hitting them too hard, that's the one I got out, I'm going to tap them round with a centre punch. There's the hole. So I always, little tip I always do here is I always replace them with some brand new Allen key bolts like that. Makes them much more resilient for getting out, and you don't have to do them up too tight. So regular servicing of power valves every few thousand miles is my tip. So they're going back in there like so, and then I've got the other cylinder to do. So that's a complete set of clean power valves. You'll notice the little spring, 2 springs, all clean, lovely to go in. Oh, look at that. How easy was that? Why did it struggle first time? So they're in, and then that retaining, it's a funny thing. They're like, there you go. Can you see that? Is it focus? Focus. There we go. So that goes in. Supposedly. That goes in like that. Is that in? Be easier with pliers. There we go. And then nice new shiny screw and washer. It's so hard doing it one-handed. I should just use the tripod. These are those new gloves. So you've seen the ones with no ends to the fingers. Well, this is that new type, no thumb at all. So you get your thumb nice and dirty. So we just nip that up. Not, as I say, not too tight. And I'll do the other 2 screws there. And then it's the shaft through. So I'll show you that when that's all in place. So that's everything in place. The pulley wheel, the retaining spring, the plate for the cables, power valve cables, and the marks on the, see the marks for setting up the power valves. So all that remains to be put back on is that washer and that nut, which that one, and the little grub screw that goes in there, which is the actual arm that lifts the power valves, like so. So there's a hole in that shaft with the thread, and that grub screw gets Loctite on it. So I'll do that now. That's it. Cleaned up cylinder, all nice clean exhaust port, power valves in place, new Allen key bolts retaining them, all lovely and clean. So this is how they work. So 3-part power valves on a VJ22. So if you turn it, it's pretending the cables are pulling it. So half fully open, but that is all done as a transitionary smooth operation when the cables are attached. It's a bit jerky when they're not attached. So that's it. Just the other set to do. Cover to put on, just waiting for gaskets, and waiting for gaskets for the base gaskets and the parts for the pistons, and that's it. Put the engine back together. Hopefully you've learned something, guys. I've done hundreds of these, literally, so it's second nature, but if you've never seen them in operation before, it's probably quite handy to see.